Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a sew along to my new pattern, this fun butterfly cape design. And like always, I give you the printing settings, which are really important, and then the picture guide on how to tape and assemble a pattern, the size chart, and of course here's the video tutorial to go along with it. Another thing that I attached to the pattern is I give you a placement guide, I guess, a picture showing you how to arrange all of the little butterfly details, because I know it's a lot of pieces and I didn't want you guys to get confused. And so here's the picture guide, and I'll go more into detail when we get it to that step. But yeah, let's get started by first doing the test square. Okay, I recommend that you print out the first page of the pattern file, because you want to double check that you inputted the printing settings correctly, and so the square has to measure 2 inches by 2, and if it does, good to go, and you can print out the rest of the pattern. And a couple more things that are on the pattern is you have the letter and number and a dotted border around the page. That way you know how to arrange them in order. So again, if we go back to our pattern instruction page, I tell you to tape and match on the dotted line from A1 all the way to A8. We're going to go down to B1 all the way to B8, and lastly we're going to go down to C1 all the way to C8. So that's how we're going to tape and assemble our pattern. Okay, so let's get started. Go ahead and cut 2 out of fabric and 2 out of lining for the wings. I'm going to be using this solid green, like we're going to be adding the little butterfly details on there. Going to keep that solid. And then for the inside, we're going to be using this fun rainbow print. And for the wing center, we're going to cut 1 out of fabric and 1 out of lining. For mine, I'm just going to use the same color, yellow, for the inside and the outside. And now we're going to place them right sides together, connecting the wings onto the center. And we're going to be sewing 1/2 inch seam allowance. And repeat the same steps for the lining. Now let's get started on working on the outside of the wing. We're going to be sewing all the little pieces to create the butterfly design. So go ahead and cut everything out of felt, and each size is also color coded. So for example, I'm working on a 4T, which is green, so I'm going to cut all of the green ones for that size. I also tell you how many pieces to cut of each one, and lastly, most importantly, it's numbered so you know how to arrange them when you pin them onto the wings. And yeah, we're gonna sew, and this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so now let's get started on working on the ears. Go ahead and cut 4 out of fabric and 2 out of either batting or foam, and we're going to pin right sides together and sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After that, we're going to trim and clip all of the curve areas and then flip it to the right side. That's how your little bug ears should look like. Now we're going to sew them onto the hood. Okay, so we have the hood panel. Go ahead and cut 2 out of fabric, and then we have the hood. Again, cut 2 out of fabric, and we're gonna pin everything together. So we're going to grab our ear, and we're going to pin it 1/2 inch away from the edge. You can either stitch it in place if you want to. I'm just gonna pin everything together. So yeah, again, you can sew that in place, or you can pin everything together kind of like a sandwich. So we're gonna take our hood, ears, and then we're gonna put the hood panel on top, right sides together, and we're gonna be sewing 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now let's pin the final piece, which is the hood middle. Go ahead and cut 1 out of fabric, and we're going to start pinning from the top of the hood, work around the curve until you get to the bottom of the hood, and repeat the same steps to the other side, connecting them obviously right sides together. And we're going to be sewing both sides 1/2 inch seam allowance. And the last thing we're going to do on the hood is add some bias tape on the edge just to give the hood a nicer finish. So I'm going to quickly sew that, and now we're ready to pin the hood onto the wings. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is mark the center of both the hood and the wings. After that, we're going to pin them right sides together, and we're going to be sewing 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now we're going to pin the lining onto the cape. Start by first marking 8 inches away from the inside of the cape. That's going to be our starting point, and also repeat that onto the other side by marking it. We're going to place fabrics right sides together, and we're going to be sewing 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then after that we're going to trim and clip all of the curved areas and corners, and then flip it to the right side. Okay, so now we can make the sleeve design on the cape by bringing the fabric forward and the inside of the cape. We're going to sew just a straight line across and repeat onto the other side as well. And lastly, we're going to close the opening where we flipped the cape to the right side. Okay, so we're going to take in 1/2 inch when we're pinning the lining onto the hood area, and try to cover as well like the seam, that way we get a nicer finish. And then when it comes to like the arms areas, we're actually going to kind of curve it, so you can cut the piece in a curve, but please keep about 1/2 inch seam allowance, right? Or you could just tuck it in, okay? And as I'm tucking it in, I'm kind of creating that little curve, and that's it. We're going to pin, repeat that onto the other side. And this is how your cape should look like, all pinned. Okay, so here are your options when it comes to closing the opening. Okay, you can stitch it by hand, which I think gives like a more professional look to it. However, though, if you don't want to, you can just like top stitch it. It's fine. Go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're done with our butterfly cape. Here it is. This is how it turned out. I'll link the pattern down below. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Message me on Etsy or leave a comment. And I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.